Let's go and get started. It's a few minutes early, but I think we've got pretty much everyone here. I'm Brad Hillis, and I am a lawyer in Seattle. And I built the first Supreme Court website in 1995 and built the first state Supreme Court law library website in 1996. I'm currently the webmaster for the University of Washington CALI group and do web design for law schools. I'm not going to use the microphone. Is that okay? Everyone can hear me fine. Is there a bit of an echo? Yeah, it's on. I'll put it over here. Who's doing distance learning? I mean, tell me what you're interested in, and I can focus on that. Are you interested in, I want to set up a distance learning course, or do you have a CLE group that wants to have some of those courses go online? Do your law schools want to go online? What's the sort of demand that you're encountering?
Yes.
Yes,
We're interested in CLEs on.
Which, for CLE group or private company or for a law school CLE?
Law school.
Yeah. Anybody else doing that? Yeah.
We recently received a grant and we were part of a four-school consortium and we found the CLE to targeted alumni.
Yes. Really? That's my favorite idea ever. And I got it from you. But I love that. I love online stuff being real niche, marketed. And one of my favorite things, I went to a liberal arts college, to Colorado College, and people just love certain professors. And like we had a history of war and peace class, and it was just such a loyalty builder. People would come back to a reunion, but always go to that class. That'd be the perfect class, I think, to have kind of a distance learning approach to it. Anybody got their law degree online? Any? I thought, to me, that's what a cyber lawyer is. Never went to law school.
Yeah. Only in California.
Only in California? As it should be. Yeah, I think the MA, LLB, or LLM thing is going to be a bigger degree generator. Okay, well, I've got kind of a broad outline. If at any point you want to go follow a certain, track or pursue something in greater detail, we can do that. I've left some of the technical stuff at the end, and if you want to get into the SMIL format, which is a great new multimedia language to coordinate audio with PowerPoint style slides, email me and we can kind of go back and forth. There's some links here, and this is on my website, which if you can't read, you can come down later and get it. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. My background is I'm totally into distance learning. I just think it's the greatest thing ever. I just think we should just do all education online because of the cost. I don't think it's better quality education, but the cost can be so phenomenally less. We don't have any choice about whether to pursue it. To me, the key questions are what is distance learning trying to teach? And this is really like, have you ever been around the fire at night and you say, why is college 4 years? Why is law school 3 years? Get kind of philosophical and stuff. So maybe distance learning isn't trying to teach us in the same way we've been doing it for the last couple thousand years. Well, that sort of tips the answer, doesn't it? Education itself is probably the way it should be. The 4-year useless liberal arts education is really essential to analytic thinking. So you probably don't get rid of that. On the other hand, if what you're trying to teach is a piece of vocational knowledge or just get a degree, just give me my degree even if you don't teach me anything. Distance learning could be really a great thing. No, but I'm serious about that. Who are the students using distance learning? My anecdotal experience has been the students on campus, right, are the ones who actually use distance learning. What you want to tell everyone when you're getting it started is it's going to be the adult learner, the displaced logger in Washington, the displaced salmon fisher person, whatever. But it tends to be students on campus who are trying to get out in 4 instead of 5 years and can't get a requirement done, can't get registered for the requirement in the regular course. That's our experience at the University of Washington. Washington State University in Eastern Washington, more rural campus, really does serve rural people. And so that's sort of the traditional great hope of distance learning. So is this about transforming access to knowledge, which is what I would say, yes. That's what you want to do with it. You want to just totally open up everything. No more can you get admitted, no more can you afford it, just everything free on the net. But really, the way it's turning out in the short term is it's just making the University of Washington a little more efficient. Right? It's getting the kids out in 4 instead of 5 years. So we really aren't seeing the radical transformation with distance learning. I mean, isn't that the classic internet? It zigs and zags. You think it's going to do great things, and it does little tiny things. And then you go around the corner and bandwidth appears to really solve everything. And you get the analytical thinking. Now, there's 2 kinds of distance learning. I mean, there's the one where it's just up, you take it any time. That tends to be what the CALI courses are like. And the other is the professor's there. The course opens on June 19th, and you have chat sessions at certain times. And this is, you know, if you think you can teach analytical thinking, or you think a faculty member, interaction with faculty member is a really good thing, then you want to have that faculty member teach the course during the time it's offered. If you tend to think more just having the content available is really what's meaningful, you would want these sort of self-contained standalone courses. I can take it at 3 in the morning. I can take it during the summer when it's offered in the spring. And Tim Stanley from FindLaw was saying his thought on this, listservs are used in course as well. Maybe the better thing is to search an archive of past listservs. I mean, that's the closest you can get to listserv participation when you're talking about asynchronous courses. And then the market for distance learning is students, adult learners, kind of executive MBA types, and international. Now, the international students are the most fascinating because it doesn't mean that they're from other countries. It means that they represent to us this great, vast new source of revenue. Right? We're not going to cannibalize our existing courses or existing distance learning. Somebody from an international student is just going to come in and pay. And anybody have the numbers on that? Again, our experience anecdotally at UW is a much smaller number of students take the distance learning courses than we would have thought. And they tend to be close to home. You tend to take the distance learning course at the local community college, is the way it's been working out. It's not how the internet is portrays itself, but really the internet's about local communities. So formal education online, or the form of education. To me, distance learning is really not about having a specific class. It's, you know, like all of you that are here, learn from the internet. You know, that's what makes you distinct, is you're kind of this early adopter. So you just go out and you find Genia Taberski's PowerPoint slides and how to do internet legal research, and you follow through those, and you kind of teach yourself internet legal research, or you see Leonard Louis-Jacques stuff, and you learn about international law. So the casual form of internet learning gets back to what are we learning? I mean, do you learn in courses, or do you do some kind of a lifelong learning process? Easy to dismiss, but you keep coming back to it. And a good example of that is my kids in elementary school, the way they use the internet, they don't take courses on the internet. They just go over and casually use it. So that's what distance education is almost about, is in classroom. Right? It's total opposite of the way we thought it would be. But in classroom use for encyclopedia reference, or factual reference, or just get out of my hair reference. Just go over to the computer. What are we doing here? I mean, are we just trying to film the professor's lecture? Again, this is my preference. I was talking about this yesterday in a talk I did on FindLaw and academic legal research. But what I would do is film every class in every law school every day and beam it out unedited over the internet. And then I'd have some central consortium take and edit that raw material and produce higher quality distance learning courses, because that's my vision. You know, everything digital. Even if you don't broadcast, you have it available, and you build up this huge archive of material. And that is sort of an example of what's happening at University of Wisconsin. I mean, here's this here's this history professor, and his lectures are televised, and it's part of the old distance learning cable TV thing. And so let's stream that out on the internet. What's so hard about that? And by the way, I like this link here to the Nixon Audio Archive. There's some pretty funny stuff there. However, Alberta, Canada says, oh no, televised stuff over the internet, how unprofessional could that be? So they have a quote here, virtual schools need good quality electronic courses. Simply placing electronic copies of our printed materials in the hands of schools may be a quick solution, but is not the answer. You know, so maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong. The reason that's right is it's great to really integrate stuff in an online way and add hyperlinks and add video and audio. On the other hand, just putting stuff up has certain values. I mean, having law professors post their syllabus or post their reading, all that is sort of a halfway form of distance learning, but is really, you know, kind of where the action's at today. And if the point is TV is better than text, you know, maybe it's good that we lost out. Maybe it's good that Bill Nye is better at distance learning than we are, right? So this is science instead of law. But you know what I mean? I mean, maybe it's okay to have a cheapened television-style approach to knowledge, right? I mean, devil's advocate. You're all being very passive about that. I mean, Bill Nye is good because he's educational, right? But he's sold that to the MTV thing, right? I don't want to hear that the student's too bored to sit and listen to me for 2 hours going on about Play-Doh, right? I want the student to transform and break out of the MTV mold. So those are two kind of competing philosophies about distance learning. Are you just putting up a lot of, you know, links to Nietzsche, links to Schopenhauer, Call Me in the Morning, or do you need, you know, video and audio? Okay, what's the state of the industry? I mean, nobody really knows. I kind of just checked out the local community college, Clackamas Community College. Okay, here's their summer courses. So the site's okay, designed kind of okay. Let's go back, actually. Online classes. Okay, so adult high school. Now, doesn't this feel good? Getting your high school diploma online, you know, that's pretty good. But you go through, and you don't really get to learn anything about history just by going to the course. It's okay, but not great. Bookstore, I like to track online bookstores. Here's how the bookstore works at Clackamas. You just call up and tell the bookstore person what books to send you. You know, it doesn't have to be an online store. But online stores now are done either directly yourself through Yahoo, which is $100 a month. I really recommend you set up an online store if you want to do any kind of credit card transaction using Yahoo. Or you can pay $500 to open up a store through an internet service provider. Like I use Host Pro out of Los Angeles. So I would give this kind of a, you know, a C and rising. You know, local community college has distance learning, doesn't really teach me anything just from going there, makes me register and pay. You know, they're getting there, but they're not quite there yet. Online CLE is more there, CLEonline.com. You can just go ahead and take these CLEs. The cost is not that much less. We'll get into that in a little bit. But that's take your CLEs online. Ohio CLE, I love the colors here, but actually they don't do very much in terms of online CLE. They have a third party called Taycan do it. Now Taycan's doing a good job, but what I've heard is they're not selling that many seats. You know, they're just not putting up the numbers that you would have thought. You know, I thought back in '95, oh, lawyers are just going to jump all over this, so online CLE will be great. But it's been okay so far.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that do they deliver content or do they just provide online registration?
Yeah, great, different model. Taycan's model is we don't know anything. We see this huge, vast body of American CLE providers through universities or private companies who don't know anything about the net. So we will take your course material, put it online, and then we'll split the revenue.
Okay, so they will deliver content online.
That is correct. It's not just
created, but they deliver it.
That is correct. they will deliver the content online, as opposed to just registering online and then showing up for the class, or as opposed to mailing you the videotape. You take the whole class online. And legal span, anybody hearing the legal span? This is kind of a new one. Online CLE, what they're trying to make money at is doing online deposition. So broadcast to the net of depositions. But there is some CLE stuff here. Go through it. Let's choose ethics. And here's your ethics class. Now they take you through like a shopping cart, and then you can buy the course, and then they give you the URL, and you just take it right there online. I like Bob Ambrogi's links to all online CLE at legalonline.com. Go through. There's about a dozen courses. Hyros Gamos has some stuff. PLI, David Arfin had hoped to be here today from PLI, but couldn't make it because of scheduling conflicts. They do a lot of audio, video. PLI is kind of the class act of the group. What I don't like about it is they're trying to do too much. I mean, I almost prefer this, again, going with the SMIL approach to having an audio stream with some slides, because the talking head part, if all the video is a person lecturing, you might as well have that be audio for all the aggravation you've saved yourself. The TACAN model I like because anybody could do it. I mean, anybody could go approach CLE companies and put content up, and split the revenue. CLE groups are a little bit hesitant to do that, again, out of fear that they'll lose revenue on their regular in-person ones. Here's the online law school, and again, nobody's a graduate yet. I think it just opened. But the part that I like about it is the potential. I mean, I don't really like the idea, but I like what it could become, and I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. I'm happy though for Kaplan. Is it Gerald Kaplan? Right, because he has this company with outlines, and things kind of dry up, and then the CLE comes along, and now he's got this whole new potential. The Berkman Center is, to my mind, a really good example of online legal education. It's not CLE, it's not courses, although they frame it in courses. It's open to anyone. I've taken their course in intellectual property, and it's real fun. My experience, though, is it's really hard to stay motivated. I mean, the thing distance learning can't do is can't call you and say, why weren't you in school today? In college we would do that. We would skip out and pretend we're sick, and the professor would come over to our rooms and see and stuff like that. So the internet doesn't care about you. And that's a real difficult thing. So I had a picture of Isaac Newton up on the very first screen. Isaac Newton would like distance learning because he was very self-driven. Somebody who learns socially or needs motivation would not do so well distance learning. But this avoids that issue. I mean, Harvard's just here doing a lot of money, and they've got grant money to pump into it. But here, let's offer a bunch of courses before we make big institutional decisions about whether Harvard students will get credit online. And everyone should do that. I mean, everyone should have kind of a Berkman Center fake distance learning program. But they do a lot of stuff here. They build up their business, and so here's Lawrence Lessig came up with this great open code idea, which is just saying let's all gang up on Microsoft. Right? That's what it's all. Let's all add ideas to the brief and review it and stuff like that. So the educational part has become something of a news function. And then the reason law is doing all this distance learning is because everybody else is. Medicine. So here's an online nursing school. And it's hard to tell what the quality is, but I like that they're out there. And it's sort of why lawyers can't just ignore the technology. Okay, just a couple of quick justifications. In going through different distance learning sites, legal distance learning sites, I found this a lot. what I found was, little do you know, we're doing distance learning. We have been doing distance learning, and we've been doing a really bad job at it. Therefore, internet distance learning is not measured against the classroom. It's measured against that really slow, send up the correspondence courses, send back the notes, send back the graded quiz. Okay, that is what we're improving on. Top 10 reasons to take a distance learning class. Again, this is from the Clackamas County Community College. I don't really buy very many of these, even though they're all good. Like, you can learn independently at your own pace. You know, that works if it works. You don't have to find a babysitter. But that, you know, translate that to, you can study with the baby in your lab, which, you know, you don't need a babysitter to go to class. You need a babysitter to do while you can do your homework. So there's some of these things that are almost trying to grab too much or claim too much. But you'll improve your job prospects and earning power. That's what I said. I wasn't kidding about just getting the degree. I mean, sometimes you don't need the knowledge, but you need the accreditation. Okay, I make fun of the serving the world thing, but this Blue Ridge Community College site in Virginia, doesn't this just tug at your heart? You know, this is really what it's about. But of course, this works because it's in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Again, the internet doesn't work on a global, the server's in Italy, we don't notice it, you know. If that works that way if you advertise. Right? But if we're talking about strictly putting up content, local stuff rings closer to home. And I'll tell you why that's wrong in a little bit. Now this rings really true, except then you look more closely and it says, by the way, to take our online courses, you must have Netscape 4 or IE 4. Now, last time I went to the Blue Ridge Mountains, which admittedly was a while ago. I mean, if you're talking poverty, you're talking helping people get out of generational poverty, it's hard to require the 4.0 browser. You know, again, what are we saying? What we're saying is whether they're going to go to the library, are they going to go to the university, you know, or again, is Blue Ridge Mountain Community College having online courses for its students that are on the campus that can't get registered for calculus. This link, World Lecture Hall, posted by the University of Texas, is one of my favorite examples of, it's not about courses, it's about material. So here are all these courses that are put up, different topics, and most of them you can just go in and start taking. Here's that course we saw in Wisconsin, the televised one. What's great about some of these topics is all the materials are online. For U.S. history, you can pretty much do it all online. And I also question that aspect of distance learning, that the classes that require textbooks. I mean, if what you're trying to do is super low cost education, make sure all your textbooks are online. But this sort of aggregation, I've got some more stuff on this as to distance learning, is essential. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you can find it, right? Having this sort of stuff is what the university is about. Now, we all are a little bit skitty about online learning, but what does it really work for? Niche markets. Okay, I need this course on Institute of Art and Law. And, you know, this is not offered at the University of Washington as far as I know. Or you might want it offered generically. Peter Martin from Cornell, according to some slides from Michael Frumkin that I'll show you that I really recommend everyone go through. But Peter Martin was doing a course for 4 different universities on internet law. And they were all sharing his resources. And then I like the kind of, other forms of legal education. So the Talmud as a legal text. And what I loved with this was this claim that Talmud was the first hypertext document, because there were all these references within the Talmud. And so we haven't talked about that. I'm not really going to get into it. But sometimes internet formats of text better fit the text or the educational topic than than a traditional class. And another example might be an entertainment, a movie class, where you want to show a lot of videos. And the internet is just really nicely set up for that, ignoring the bandwidth problems. Okay, so what are the scholars saying? Frumkin has this great slideshow, and there's 58 slides, so I won't go through it all, but he makes fun of it. And I'd love to go through it because I disagree with a lot of what he says. He kind of parrots what's, and I don't know if it's tongue-in-cheek or he's just analyzing it, what some of the standard critiques of distance learning are. And one of them that I disagree with is that it does away with the brick-and-mortar law school. I disagree that it does away with professors or that it degrades professors. That as distance learning companies like to degrade professors, take the copyright and things like that. But I don't think that the format takes it away. Digital Diploma Mills is the key article attacking online learning. And David Noble is a famous scholar who's advocated this position. And basically what he said is, every time you open an online university, it fails, right? And then you claim it's not failing, and then we go check the enrollment, and it is failing. And then you pump a bunch more money into it, it still fails. And this article kind of goes on and on about that. So like the Western Governors University, right, had like 2 people registered for it or something like that. I mean, this is a typical distance learning experience at the University of Washington. We'll get 1 person registered for a course. It's not this huge demand thing. But what Noble, and at the University of Washington, we had a big spat last fall, and Cheryl, jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong, but Wallace Lowe, who was the dean of the law school, went to work for the governor's office, and he said, hey, distance learning, we could really cut some costs. And he said this to the law school faculty, to the University of Washington faculty, law school faculty. Anyway, the next day, the whole faculty became unglued. There was a petition with like 900 signatures sent to the Chronicle of Higher Education about, you don't understand the importance of faculty. Right? And so what the UW faculty could not come up with a good explanation for is how are we going to offer academic material at a low cost? How are we going to respond to the erosion of financial aid or the replacement of grants with loans? And you kids coming out with $60,000 in debt. And Frumkin makes this point. They come out with $60,000 in debt, they don't get a job, they come back to the law school and said, hey, this did not work out. But Noble focuses on the quality of analytical thinking. And he says students don't like it. That's the biggest one. There's a couple of generic distance learning consortium research centers that I was just going to scroll through. This one's out of Texas Tech, the Center for Distance Learning Research. This article out of England I thought was really helpful because it's talking about a CALI type courseware that they developed, and this university has about 4,500 students taking distance learning courses, and this is where I got the stuff about we've been doing it for a long time, now we're just doing it with the internet, so don't worry about it. What they're into in Europe is CD-ROM. And we probably don't understand the difference between the web and CD-ROMs. We probably will embrace CD-ROM technology to deliver more audio and video. You go to France, and they are just CD happy. And the whole internet thing does not seem to work very well. Okay, cost. I'm really happy to talk to you about this, even though you probably don't care because you have all the funding in the world, right? You just are told this money is no object. Okay, but what does it cost? To open an online CLE company, which I'm really hot to do, I would think this would be really fun. I'm figuring $5,000 to $50,000. $5,000 just to open a bare bones online CLE. Okay, now do the math. So let's say you're going to charge, $100 for a half-day class. How many courses do you have to do to break even? I would say the Take Hands site, some of the CLE online sites are in the $50,000 plus. category. I mean, they're really beautifully designed. But doing this is not very expensive. So you've got the same issue that you have with Amazon.com. Will, just at the point where they can raise their prices and make a profit, will there be this huge flood of small solo entrepreneurs doing bookstores that will continue to, impose price pressure? The great thing about online CLE is the faculty usually just do it for free. They just sign it over to you. That's great. Some of the online, purely online CLEs, I've heard faculty being offered $500 per course, up to, that's, it's offered starting June 19th. I would say the $5,000 figure would be a CLE site that does not have streaming audio or video. That's just putting up the electronic text. Advertising is a very expensive thing. You can spend $10,000 sending out an ad, sending out a brochure, telling people about your service. The emerging way is to email everybody. Now, is it spam? It's probably spam when a private company emails you, but how about if the Oregon State Bar emails its members, which they do, they've got about a third of the State Bar's email gathered. And they send out CLE notices all the time. So that is kind of, economically, that really works for online CLE. But they get a lot of complaints. What does it cost to have a law school website with a course catalog? I'm going to say $10,000. Anybody want to correct me on that? Anybody ever, Yeah.
Well, I think you have to approach that as an add-on cost, right? I mean, the stuff is already being done in print. It's already being word processed. I don't think it comes anywhere near $10,000 to do.
To just put it up.
To do the electronic version.
Mark up the HTML.
Right. The same is true of what you're saying there about threaded discussion tools and administration. If you've already got that stuff in a registrar database, what's the incremental cost of adding some program and drop that over to Webboard or something of that sort?
Yeah. The incremental cost, according to my source DW, is if you have a bad system, it's $355 per student to add, set an account. But the new threaded one will be free because they figured out what you're saying, that's stupid to be spending all that much money.
I would dispute that because I think most places will not merely put material that is already in paper up. I think they will rethink what they're doing. I think there's probably going to be a new movement to separating extranets and intranets and thinking about which types of material are needed by which populations and how to connect all of that. And I think there's a lot of thought and a lot of planning that goes into this by some pretty highly paid people.
That's what the 10,000 meant to me was you open up a couple of issues.
10,000 is low.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking graphic designer, if you're talking somebody to write the material, and you're talking someone else who has the technical, who has the managerial and technical skills, but you might have someone else with technical skills and then a manager.
Yeah, the project manager.
And project manager. You're talking about four pretty highly paid people, and the $10,000 figure sounds low to me. And I don't think a year's worth of planning is too small an amount for a website for college of law.
Speaking as the architect, probably the biggest money sink in digital education is the Lexus Bridge project. I have to say that there needs to be an error of practicality about it. So you can spend as much money as you want to. And with something like the bridge, Lexus has. I mean, I participated in those projects. And I'm now going to find myself in a somewhat unwelcome position of speaking as a proxy for Peter Martin. But his work has been very much conceived around the notion that there are market mismatches between what law schools already offer internally and what people want externally. You've always got students who want that course in Roman law that you haven't got anyone to teach. And you've always got instructors who want to teach that course in law of left-handed, right-handed architects that no student wants to take. And in the second and third year curriculums, you have this huge sort of bazaar where exchanges can take place on an interinstitutional basis, and the incremental cost of doing that is really relatively low. because you're talking about existing material, that you're
Right.
talking about stuff that is largely discussion-based.
Yeah.
Where a great deal of the course content is self-generated within threaded discussion.
I think we're talking about apples and oranges stuff.
Well, absolutely, but
Yeah.
there's nothing that requires.
The LII is a different kind of thing than a law school book site.
There's nothing that requires anybody to go to the high end.
No, that's right. I mean,
That's true.
that's one of the frustrating things if you were around in 94, 95, and you learned HTML, and you're like, wow, we can just put stuff up for free. And then you got to the first meetings, they talked about budget, and it all got bogged down, and you got so depressed, and maybe I'm projecting here, but this dilemma, it's the dilemma of the web. At the one hand, you can do things very inexpensively and share information very powerfully, very low cost.
Well, the one thing that I would hate to see is the sort of model that we've seen develop in educational television, which is the model of the excluded middle, where you have on the one hand very high-end stuff with very high production value being produced by the likes of PBS, and on the other hand you have local public access stuff that no one in their right mind would look at. And no one is really addressing in the middle where the costs are kept reasonably contained and the material is reasonably good.
Yeah.
And I don't see any reason for anyone to really sort of panic and run to either one of those extremes.
Right. What's going on at your school with online education?
What we've been doing is primarily Peterson. For the last 3 years, we've been offering a course across 4 institutions, where the biggest single problem has been calendaring, frankly. That's going to be, in some ways, I think, the hardest administration. It turns out that if you want to teach a 14-week course in 4 institutions, you have to take 27 weeks to do it. Because of synchronizations and semester breaks, spring vacations, this, that, and the other thing. So the 1 semester course becomes a 2 semester course.
Yeah.
You have to go through the administrative apparatus of, and in fact, Peter went forward and said, make me an adjunct at 4 different institutions. And that was the whole basis of the financial transaction. This is not being paid on a per-enrolled student basis. It's simply bringing an adjunct to teach digital copyright. It's going to cost you the same thing.
Yeah.
It's largely text-based, largely discussion-based. There's very little audio or video, other than sort of once a week, real-time conference.
Yeah.
And that's that. We kept it as deliberately simple and technology unintensive as we could, and so we did that.
You do the real-time conferences. Do students participate from their home, or do they tend to be at the university, at the law school, with their little Netscape See-You-See-Me cameras?
We found a way to turn what was at the time of a necessity into something of a virtue, which was to have See-You-See-Me conferencing from each individual location, but to in effect be running 4 separate seminars simultaneously. And what's really happened there is that a teaching style has been perfected that allows a question from the teacher to be lobbed into a room full of 8 students at, say, Colorado, who then consider amongst themselves, appoint a representative and come back with an answer, or come back with 2 representatives if there are 2 divergent views.
Yeah.
And we've actually found that kind of multi-tracking, if the instructor is up to handling it, that's actually, I think, a better experience than 32 people trying to get digital attention at once.
Yeah. Anybody else using much audio, video? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I wasn't referred to that. I was really opening up this discussion generally, because I have a couple of things.
Yeah, jump in.
Well, I'm deeply troubled by this, I have to say. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Absolutely.
And the model that seems to be presented here, and it may just be because it's convenient trying to go through, so we're going to actually, we can do something and let's try it and see how it goes. The model seems to be basically this kind of one-way chunking of information. It's either text or it's video or it's audio or whatever, and you can do that, who cares? Yeah, of course we can do that.
Where's the
But it's not learning, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not, it doesn't seem to me to have any sound educational value apart from providing one kind of aspect of distance learning. And if you teach at, or if you've ever taught at a genuine distance educational institution as Pearl and I have, which was a paper-based model, and you said, well, if you think web-based stuff, then you should try paper-based.
Yeah.
These things were set up as a paper-based model with a good pedagogical theory underlying it.
Right.
And it wasn't just sending copies of texts and saying, read this, now you know. there were all sorts of requirements that we had there. You had to write texts for them that actually required them to do things. They had to actually read cases and reflect upon it. They had to answer questions. They had to do things. So it was about the student learning rather than what it seems to be here, which is just, hell, we can do it. There's the information.
It's tempting to just throw a lot of reference material and say you've covered the material.
Right.
What you're saying is interactivity is possible without face-to-face.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it, but I think interactivity is actually the wrong idea, because that seems to me to presume that discussionalists can answer all of our problems. I don't care about interactivity. I want students to reflect upon the case, or upon the statute, or to reflect upon a particular issue, or policy, whatever it may be. Because that's what their learning involves. It's not about whether they can point and click and answer yes, no, or whatever. It's actually about them thinking about it. And unless you've got a model that can do that, then frankly it's worthless. In terms of learning, not in terms of the distance teaching.
That has proven to be the biggest problem in working with the authors on the Bridge project coming out of Harvard. It's been very difficult to get. I think it's an American legal pedagogy problem. Generally, quite apart from distance learning, it's very, very difficult to get teachers to form strategies. Any learner-driven environment, to some extent, I think, depends on the teacher exposing his strategy and saying, in effect, this is what I'm going to tell you, this is what I want you to think about. Here are some of the springs and gears that underlie this stuff that I'm about to shove in your direction. It is terribly difficult to get American law teachers to do that in any setting.
I mean, is that just limited to American law professors? I don't think so. I think it's true across the board. We have this idea that we are teaching these people something. When in fact we should be looking at whether they're learning something. I mean, it's completely the opposite question.
That's right. I mean, and it's not just the more egregious examples of sort of hide the ball teaching and subscribing. It's very, very difficult to get people to be explicit about learning.
Well, so to summarize, if you had the choice between a quiz to answer something or having the student have a certain assumption about the law and then bumping up against a challenging set of facts that really made them think about that, adapting that rule of law, you take the latter.
Well, the quiz can do it, right? But I mean, this sort of stuff, and even any of the web courseware that I mentioned briefly a couple of days ago. I mean, it sort of presumes that you're just answering yes, no, or even the CALI author stuff, unless it's well designed, can devolve down to the point of what in CALI is identified as just the intended. You just get the right answer, and okay, I understand it now. Whereas, frankly, the better way, if you design it correctly, you say to the student, okay, well, I want you to think about this particular issue, and the way of thinking about this particular issue is to write a particular essay or to do something. So they actually have to reflect on it, and then get them to, say, assess their own work or have to send it in or whatever. But I'm not sure that you get that with the sort of the design course on the web, $6,000 to $10,000. I mean, $6,000 to $10,000 will give you, here is a set of materials, but it doesn't take it beyond that.
Well, I guess I would break down into a couple of different segments when you need that kind of learning. For people becoming lawyers, you really need that. For CLE credits, it'd be great, but even with live teaching, it's hard to make more brain cells as opposed to just throw up a lot of reference material.
Right. If it's just an update of the 5 important cases that you should have looked at this year, and
I'm curious about what you think about hyperlinking. Is hypertext then able to meet the need to present to students disparate ideas in surprising juxtaposition, or?
Yes, but hyperlinks are not the answer to their learning needs. You have to design carefully. I think that some of these hyperlinks, they're relevant, but to be honest, most learning environments are, and I think should be, fairly linear. Because as a professor, if you're thinking about how students should be learning these sorts of things, I realize my presentation's that. So I had a fanfare. If you expect them to learn things in a particular sequence, then you're probably going to have it be fairly linear. So I don't know whether hyperlinks are relevant.
from the CLE perspective, I was talking to a friend of mine who just recently became an attorney, and sort of 2 points about it. One was, you know, so typically what happens is a partner, they take the tape, they pop in the machine, and they go back to their desk, and they go back to work while the tape's playing. And
Right.
so, and the other thing was, I was telling him how we at our law school were discussing ways to maybe deliver some CLEs to the internet so he wouldn't have to leave his desk. He was like, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Listen to this." He pulls out a brochure, and he's listing all these Caribbean and ski resort places where he wanted to go to have his vacation and then sit in a room for an hour and take a CLE.
Right.
So I sort of questioned whether what's already out there for some of the CLE stuff is any good anyways.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, someone behind you.
And I think there's some confusion here, at least for me, on what we're talking about. You know, we talking about the problems of teaching, making a student learn and think who doesn't want to learn, or think who just wants to get a good grade and a degree, versus the issue of how does the web work in these different contexts. And the other thing is, I don't think you can lump the two contexts. There's a difference between a CLE. We do it all the time. We're in Iowa. It's this giant state with nobody in it.
Yeah.
So for the lawyers to have to come in to Des Moines is a big deal. Sometimes they get a thrill, I think.
And you have free CLE, don't you?
No.
Oh. There's one state in the Midwest that doesn't charge. The bar just gives you a CLE.
Well, I don't
Anyway,
know.
go ahead.
It's not Iowa. But we have this fiber optic system they paid a fortune for before they found out the internet. And you watch that, and it's the exact same thing you see when you're in a CLE. There are some people, although they're a little more, you know, they try to hide the newspaper when you're there live, but when you watch them, you can still see them. They don't, I guess they're relative to looking in rooms, and you can see them in there, you know, with their feet up and the newspaper and all that. And they're just listening to a lecture. They're not really interacting. Some are listening, some aren't. You know, so that's the state of CLE.
The video teleconference.
Basically, that's what, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
And the difference is, can we do it, I guess, can we do it better, cheaper, or whatever, using less hassle, probably, just streaming off the internet, which maybe if we've got the right equipment on the other end. But because the fiber optic networks are a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So, but then when you talk about classrooms, my husband's in the English department. He's right now finishing up 2 web courses. Become extremely popular with the students in the summer.
Yes.
That's the only time we offer it. And they love doing it. And I keep thinking, would this ever work in a law school setting? And I'm not sure. And that's the thing I guess I came here to see about, or I'll bring back my CLE person, whatever you've got on this. But I guess, you know, there are problems teaching. Those aren't going to go away because you're using media.
Right.
There are problems in how most law professors aren't taught how to teach, and most, frankly, don't know how to teach.
Yeah.
So that someone learns.
Yes.
So the question then is, how does this equipment, how does this technology enhance what we're doing, and what's the cost of doing it monetarily, time-wise? Time-wise, these things are a pain in the butt, as far as I can see.
Right.
And what are we going to get out of it? Is it worth it?
Yes.
And I guess that's what I'd like to hear and see more of, not, or, you know, these things.
Well, let me go through some of the rest of the cost stuff and jump in and press me on this. Designing a course of the web is going to cost, in my experience, about $6,000 to $10,000. That's about $2,000 to $3,000 for the faculty member. And what's different is we buy the copyright. That, you know, today if a law school faculty gets up and gives a lecture, that's his or her material. That all changes with distance learning. It doesn't have to change, but the norm has been to change. About 3 things, interactive designer, and again, jump in if you have other thoughts on this, about a month.
Yeah, no, certainly in Australia, so we talked about $1,000. But it's still $50,000 to $60,000 Australian per course. So in the University of Sydney, you actually get time off. So this is a single person for half a year who is designing the tools. Because you can't just take the lecture notes and bung them on. It doesn't work. You actually undergo a training program for a couple of weeks, and then you start writing next to an instructional designer. It's typically 3 or 4 lecturers to one instructional designer with one editor. And that's before it's even gotten to come on board.
Yeah, you're producing good quality stuff. That's screwing at the bell curve. On the overall market, now this, I don't know if I believe this, but the Consortium for Advanced Legal Education, more than 1 million students now take courses via distance learning, compared with 13 million to attend on-site training. Now I'm saying on-site training. That's going to be the full American university market, 13 million. Does that seem right or not? And 1 million online. So I was figuring $1 million online, paying $100 per year, so that's a $100 million market, give or take.
What's the Consortium for Advanced Legal Education?
Let's go there. I know, I love that name. It sounds so real, doesn't it? But it could just be a, P.O. Box 422 in Encino, California. You like that? You believe in him? Paralegal courses.
I was doing okay till we got to the 888 number.
Exactly. There's something about the 800 number that's reassuring. Anyway, approximate size, $50,000. Yeah, that's what Wolverhampton University in the UK spent on a CD-ROM. Now, a CD-ROM course, which is what PLI, what David Arford from PLI does a lot of, is more like television, more like edited multimedia than just a straight televising a lecture, throwing up a bunch of material. So what's your annual budget then for all your distance learning?
Do you want to know what my law school's annual budget is?
Yeah.
0.
Oh, that's good.
If we do it on our own time.
Yeah, right.
And so from there, you just go upwards.
Right. But they give you a piece of the back end, right? No. No profits? Anyway, also the law school coursework consortium is pretty good. It's like CALI for the UK as far as I can tell. A lot of materials on courseware, a lot of links to UK distance learning stuff. Now this is the part that I want to get into. Again, I want you all to tape everything and stream it out over the web. Now, I went to this talk from people from CNN and BBC and National Public Radio when I was back at the Special Libraries Association conference in Minneapolis last week. So BBC is digitizing everything. They said that their problem is they can't share it over the network because they're all over the UK. You can share desktop quality video over a network. You cannot share broadcast quality. Not yet. So they say 5 years, which means we're going to start looking at the network improvements, in a couple years. But the idea would be you would be able to take other courses within the law school, within other law schools. And the cost, I think BBC is spending about $300 million to upgrade the network. So when in doubt, upgrade your network. Do you have a question? No. Okay, fees. Again, we were supposed to solve the whole class problem in the United States with distance learning. The fees, just anecdotally, looks like about $100 per class here for adult high school class. $230 for Drake University. I just pulled that one up. So they're lower. Online CLE, $59 for 3 hours, about half a day. I think in Seattle we pay about $100 for half a day CLE. So it's a little bit lower, but it's not free. Fine law CLE is $20 per credit. Again, 8-hour course. Live CLE course in Seattle will be about $200. So it's not really cutting the cost all that much. What do you do about pricing? Do you lose money on all your CLE stuff, all your distance learning stuff, or is that your profit center?
Depends on the institution. Some institutions are predominantly distance learning institutions and they charge accordingly.
Yeah.
But it's basically a government-funded higher education system, so it's just run through that way.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise, it's just part of the face-to-face stuff and you just do some of the distance and they just pay for it.
Yeah. Okay, the limits of technology. State bars may not grant credit. Wisconsin does not grant credit for online CLE. It's, do not qualify. State of Washington granted credit and then withdrew it because of concerns that it's not audio or visual. So what they've done is they said, okay, well, here's the streaming audio just to get credit, even if that's not the best quality method of getting across the idea. Bandwidth is a big issue. I won't get into that. You guys are all bandwidth experts. CD-ROMs. Again, the problem with CD-ROM is you can get about 80 minutes of video. according to the people at Wolverhampton. So DVD is going to give us 6 hours. Now the problem with that is nobody has DVD players. So it's if you're going to do an on-campus thing, then that's great. If you're going to do a purely off-campus thing, it's another couple of years to get DVD. Skill level, lawyers especially are really inept with computers. You do an online course, you have a help desk talking about Windows 95 stuff. That's probably not true at law schools. Or is it? Do the kids all come in experts? Really? I'm so shocked. Everybody's quick to say, must have a Pentium 130 or greater. That really rolls off the tongue very easily. But there's a lot of people out there who don't have that. That is getting better, though. For example, you had to have a 486 computer to view PDF. There's a lot of stuff up in PDF, and that problem's kind of gone away in the last year. Okay, the coolest thing back in Minneapolis was digital paper. It's a screen like this, and you can crumple it up, right? And you can open it up and you can read it. You're all into digital paper. So that would be a cool way of doing distance education. A different way of giving you a book, a cheaper way of giving you a book. Wireless digital paper, that'd be great. But what I want to do is massive distribution. Again, if I can't solve the problem of quality, right, what I want to do is just overwhelm people with quantity. And so what I want to do is put the U.S. Constitution, right, with maybe something explanatory on a floppy disk, truly floppy, right, and wrap it around a can of Coke, and send that, right, all over the world. To me, that's distance education. It's pop education. But again, it's not solving the big questions about quality. And finally, there's one thing I hate is you're going to do a distance education course. Here's the Florida Bar. It's a wonderful website. And you get down to the bottom, and it says, you get credit. Fill out the card and mail it in. So this spoils my online learning pool. Let's wrap it up here. There's a few more things, but you can grab the materials off my website. I've got some stuff on what people are doing to make it better. The aggregation stuff at the University of California, where they're telling you all the courses online, is certainly helpful. Reusing past stuff, using more multimedia. The streaming media is great, but it's technical, so email me about that using the SMIL format. But these links are sort of the best links on how to start programming with SMIL. And how to get funding. And I know you're not interested in this, but I threw it in there anyway. And if you want to start a company, I submit your business plan to garage.com, Guy Kawasaki's company. There is a lot of venture capital out there chasing distance learning. There's some links here for grants. Will schools and CLE groups pool the resources? We heard yes over here earlier. In Australia, are you doing that? Yeah.
It's all proprietary to each university, right?
Yeah, and that's a surprising thing, and that's going to start to break down as the costs sort of outstrip the revenue from it. Copyright stuff is complicated, but you're probably all dealing with it. I'll have you look at the Harvard Law School site, if you will, and notice that the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which I can hardly pronounce, but I'm still bound by, they now have a link reporting copyright infringement. So you all put on your websites, copyright infringement? Click here and tell us, and we'll take it off our network. So that's how you protect yourself from liability for professors that infringe copyright. Don't have to understand, except the link. Well, okay. In summary, we haven't solved the problem of distance learning. The problem is either that formal education is too short, so that we all need more training, or equally likely is that college is too long, and so we can shorten distance education. So if you can figure out that paradox, then distance learning will be no problem at all. Thank you.